Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I'm your host Sandman. Today I'm just doing a quick video showing you guys how I clean up some of my locks, some of my nicer high security locks. I recently just purchased this Twin 6K with gin spools. So this is an older version of the Twin here, and it is a black belt level lock. I wanted to give it a try. Person I bought it from in Canada said, yeah man, like I've tried picking it, but it really takes a lot of tension, it's a really tough lock. So I got it, and the first thing that I noticed was I was having trouble removing the tailpiece here. This tailpiece right there, these screws were definitely rusted over. So I was like, yeah, this thing's just really gunky and it needs to be clean. So the first thing I did was I took it apart. And when you take apart anything, especially high security locks, especially locks that are $70 or more, I like to use a shim here. And you've seen me do that. I just take that shim and I splice that shear line so that way I don't get any of those driver pins, these gin spools stuck in anything I don't know. It could get stuck. Could it? I don't know. I don't want to make that risk. But anyways, after I gut it, disassemble it, I inspect all the parts, and then I go through, see if I have any spare parts here. I have some extra ASUS 706K springs here, so I replaced a couple of the springs that were looking kind of goofy, and I actually want to replace one of these sidebar springs I just noticed there. Let me get that out. And I'm going to show you guys how I clean this lock. It's pretty simple. I'm sure that there's better, stronger solvents out there. This is just my method. I'm looking for my tweezers that have just disappeared on me. Here they are. All right. So I'm going to swap out that spring there. See, there's such a big difference between these two springs that you might, if you have the spare parts, you definitely want to swap them out. If you're going to make an attempt for black belt, have some spare parts for the lock that you're working on. That way, if you get in a bind, you're not in too much trouble. And that'll provide a little bit more spring tension, maybe give me even more feedback. I'm going to junk that spring. And I'm going to replace that spring too. Why not? Why not? I mean, I think it looks fine. I just want to see if this looks any different. It looks identical. Yeah. I do have a longer one in here. For some reason, it's slightly longer. Hold on. There we go. Now they're all the same length. All right, so here's what I do. I'm not going to take the springs. I don't think all these springs are almost completely new because I replaced almost all the springs just now. And so all the top springs have been replaced. The sidebar springs are replaced. I'm going to take everything else though. I'm going to start with the plug here. I'm going to take a dirty parts bin and take a plug. And I'm not going to do the pins. The pins are not gummy or gunky, but these sidebar pins are. And why not throw this guy in there? And then the sidebar, and I'm going to throw these in there because that might clean it up a little bit. And we're going to throw in the actual cylinder housing, and then I'm just going to fill this thing up with naphtha. Naphtha is essentially butane lighter fluid, and I started using this when I went to school for woodworking. We used naphtha as a way of cleaning up wood before we applied finishing to it. It was a way of getting the grains to stand up. Then you do a final sand, and then you would actually wet it and then get the grain to stand, and then you would sand down that tall grain, and then you would hit it with naphtha. Naphtha would remove any oils from your fingerprints because if you touch wood before you apply a lacquer finish on it, it will leave what's called a fisheye. And a fisheye is that oil residue from your finger tip, and the lacquer will not adhere to the wood in that spot, and it looks like a blemish. So we used a lot of this, but this is really great for just cleaning up metal parts. It's non-corrosive, so it's really going to evaporate over time. And I'm just going to fill this guy up. Just kind of douse it a little bit. Get some in those top, the Bible here. Like I said, there's probably better solvents, but this is a very mild solvent and it evaporates on its own. So it's just, it's always been my go-to for cleaning up locks. And what I do is I don't have to fill this cup up. What I'll do is I'll leave the cup at an angle so all the parts are completely submerged, including that Bible there. just like that. And that way I don't have to actually, I don't have to waste a ton of this, but it's fairly cheap. So put in a little bit more. That's it. I'm going to let this sit for about 24 hours like this. Sometimes I'll actually do it outside. I guess I could have said, hey guys, maybe you should wear a mask. So then guys, I'm not passing out here. I'm sitting in my man cave. It's not a big deal. But yeah, you do want a ventilated area. I'm actually going to put this outside. It's going to evaporate. And then when it's cleaned up, you're still going to want to have to wipe this down because though it's not corrosive, it does kind of leave a little bit of a film residue that you just want to wipe off a little bit with your hands. And then we're going to put it back together and we're going to add an actual lubricant to the lock, which is going to be our protectant. It's going to be a CLP, a cleaning lubricant protectant to this. So this is just the solvent to clean, and then we're going to actually lubricate this lock completely within 24 hours. Let's go ahead and skip to that. All right, so it's been about 20 hours. As you can see, I would say like 80% of the fluid has completely evaporated. And so now I just want to wipe down everything carefully, and so I don't lose any parts. And I'm going to do that. I mean, I could use this pinning mat, but I really love my lockjaw pinning mat. So I'm going to use the back side of another pinning mat here, and we're going to dump out some of these parts right here. I started to do this on video, and then my camera shut off because, you know, reasons. But anyways, you guys don't need to see me wipe this down. I'm going to go ahead and do the fast forward and add some cool music to it. You guys can just sit back, eat some potato chips, and I'll put this lock together and I'll show you the lubricating process. It's really simple. And that's that. Let's skip through all this. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. So now we're just going to add some lubricant. I like to use Tri-Flow here. I just need to lubricate the plug. The plug is going to naturally lubricate the cylinder housing. It is possible that I could lubricate the top of the cylinder housing, and I may decide to do that. I'll show you how I go about doing that. You can't do it to all high security locks, but I'm just going to add a strip here of lubricant. That's all I'm doing. That's it. Rub it in with my finger. Now I have to be careful. I have to keep the key in because I have finger pins, and because I have finger pins, I have a sidebar, so I'm having to keep pressure here on that sidebar. I do want to add some lubricant here to these finger pins, just by that. And then I do want to add a little bit of lubricant. Oh, and I dropped my pin. See what I'm saying? You have to be very careful, and I'm an idiot, so I guess I will go about putting those back in. I'm an idiot. All right, I got those pins back in. No big deal. Took less than a minute. I'm gonna lay this down on its side. I'm gonna put some lubricant on the plug before I put it into the cylinder housing. And I guess I should have put some lubricant in here before I installed these pins, but I think it'll be okay. Again, I could probably put some in here. I just don't need, I don't need lubricant really for those springs and for the top pins. If anything, I want that to be nice and dry. I don't want anything to be sticking. So I think this is good enough. I really do. You'd be surprised because these are such great tolerances on these high security locks. A little bit goes a long way. So I'm really just lubricating the top pins, the finger pins, the sidebar, and the plug itself, because all of that is going to eventually lubricate the rest of this lock. There we go. Now, before I start working this thing back and forth, I mean, I could do it while it's in here, but I hate that. It makes me nervous. I am going to first. Pull that key out so I can put that tailpiece on. Then we'll start working it in. And then I'll show you another way on how to service this lock. All right, so now that we have the lubricated, just kind of work it in. Oh, that's all I have to do is just turn this thing around. Man, this works so much more smoothly. That's great. Now then, a traditional locksmith would probably not go through that whole gutting process like I just did. They'd probably just take out this little sliver here that covers what's called the Bible of the lock. And you can sometimes pull this out with tweezers. I find it best to use a punch. Let me see if I have one on my desk. I don't. Let's see if I can get it out right here. There we go. So as you can see, it's kind of loose. It's been worked a little bit from the previous owner. Take some pliers here. I'm going to cover my thumb so that way the guts don't go exploding out. Just pull that guy out, and now I can actually gut the lock and service the lock from here. But again, I really don't feel the need to apply any type of lubricant in the top of this lock. The counter milling of the plug is going to be just that. It's going to be in the plug. I do like a little bit of lubricant in there. I just don't feel the need that I need lubricant up here. Unless this was an external lock, I might add some type of lubricant because, reasons. Maybe some water might seep in here, I guess. But this is a collector lock. This is in my collection, and so I just don't feel the need to do that. I'm going to put this guy back on, and that's it. I'm done with this lock. It's perfectly lubricated, and I'm going to start learning how to pick this, hopefully. Wish me all the best of luck. I hope you guys learned something from this. Lubricating is not as difficult as it sounds, but also you do want to apply it in the right places. This is how I learned. When I was a locksmith, we would just take a line of graphite on that plug. Let's pretend that this is the plug, that it's exposed. So if I took this plug and I pulled it out of here, I would just take that line, I would take a line of graphite and just go along the top there where the pins are, and then I just put it in the lock and start working it in. That's really all you have to do, but I wanted to show you guys my entire process. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you learned something from this. Maybe you guys have a different technique. What do you guys like to use for cleaning your locks? If they're super gummy, how do you like to lubricate your locks? I know a lot of us think that locksmiths just come in here and add some WD-40 in the front hole right here, but that really does nothing for me. It does nothing for the top pin stack at all. So what do you guys like to do? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll catch you guys next time.